The hardest part of the business is done. We have a product that could definitely solve a problem. Is it proven to the outside world yet? No. But now we've wrinkled out the bugs. My goal is to challenge their expectations. Show them what's possible, then prove it. If I can prove it, I can earn my value. The risk to try Emblem is zero. The likelihood of achievement is very high. I'm here to build real relationships with investors. This is the only way I can bring investors to the future.
Today, my guest is Luke Aschenbrand, CEO of Emblem. Thanks for joining us, Luke.
Thanks for having me, man. It's good to actually do this.
So I think you have an interesting story getting into Emblem and some of the things that you did throughout your journey and the approach that you took can be, I think, a good lesson for others as well. Would be interested to hear you lay out a little bit of what got you, to this point in your life and kind of the road you took.
I interned for a Princeton football alum who ran a private equity firm. I diligenced the full deal and then helped implement the value creation thesis for it. Then I went back to my senior year of football, got concussed on the 21st day of September. So you know that song, do you remember the 21st of September? Well, I don't. And then I was, while concussed, I did an interview to go on this trip called Silicon Valley Tiger Trek. And I was always interested in tech companies and startups and VC. I mean, my dad was an entrepreneur and I was just curious. And I was one of 20 kids picked out of a lot of students to meet some of the greatest venture capitalists and founders in the world. And when I went on that trip, instead of playing more football for 3 more years, I said, I love tech. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be around startups. I love the innovation. I love the open-mindedness, and I really love getting into problems. But I don't know how to build a company yet. I know how to diligence a company, and I know numbers, but I want to talk to people all day. I want to talk to investors. I want to talk to founders. I want to see what works. I want to see what metrics matter. And I want to just learn from the volume of conversations that I can get. After consulting some of these startups, I was like, man, I really can start a company better than some of these founders. And most of these founders just didn't focus on the bare bone basics of like, what is the core problem you're trying to solve? How do you solve the problem? Why are you different? How do you eliminate friction? The hard part for me the past couple of years was getting this product right and getting it to a point where you could truly automate tracking portfolio companies and building investment committee memos and reading lots of data sets and syncing to cloud drives and making it model agnostic and like actually building an operating system for investors. That was the vision from the beginning. And now I can say that it's there, but it's taken 2 years of putting my head down just to get the product to a point where it's like, oh, just try it for free. Pay when you love it. I want to prove to solve the problem. We're here today. Emblem is a legit OS, and we want to bring 5,000 firms to the future. We can't unless we help you solve a problem today. So like now I'm in the driver's seat of like, how can we help firms? And we're measuring it from 4 ways. We're measuring it based on the amount of files we index because most of their cloud data is just stuck and unorganized. We're measuring it by reports ran because if they're looking at more deals, I run more reports. If they're looking for data, they're looking through queries. So we're measuring queries generated, and ultimately we're measuring the amount of time on the platform. Our goal is to increase those user rates as fast as humanly possible and help solve problems as we're getting firms onboarded. And we've gotten quite a few onboarded in the last 2 weeks. So I know our product is doing pretty good. It's just a matter of, can we prove to solve the problem and publicly show the world how big of a problem we solved? Because when it's out in the limelight, like, wow, oh my God, this firm uses it, this firm uses it. And then it becomes a game of like, what can you do for me? Because you did it for these people. And that's where you have like the momentum, the external momentum you need to like grow a business. I had a mentor who exited a few times. He led a public company on the S&P. Like this guy was like super well-versed. He was a partner of a few different funds, like, taught me a lot. And one of the things he told me is that the internal momentum is the most important momentum because as soon as it hits the outside world, it hits faster than you could imagine. The hardest part is getting that internal momentum to show the outside world. At first, you're going to have to beg people. That's the first stage. It's like beg people to show that you could really solve a problem. And we do have paying customers, but like the whole world doesn't know about the total value created. The second step is to prove it. And then the third part is to scale it. So there's the internal to external, which is begging, and there's the prove it, and then there's the scale it. And that's where you go from like a do everything to do nothing type of founder. And not do nothing, but like, not do every part of the business. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about like the platform and the terminal and kind of the full end-to-end life cycle of what a P firm kind of needs and what you're able to provide, which I really want to spend some quality time like diving into that and kind of what you've seen on the ground there. You mentioned a couple of interesting things before that, right? In your consulting with startups, and it's like people want to build tools that are cool, especially now with the AI boom and everything. Everyone just wants to build some sort of AI agent without, to your point, going out and saying, is this solving a real problem? Am I talking to customers that are like, yes, I need this? Like, build this for me, please. It's more of just what interests me as a founder or a technologist, and that's what I want to spend my time building. And then if I make a good enough product, it'll figure itself out. So I thought that was really relevant and poignant observation you made really early on with the startups. And then I think you also, to that point, ate your own dog food when you talk about like Emblem. And before we get into kind of where you are now, it'd be interesting to, talk a bit about when you were, because you were in stealth mode for a while, right? I think you were going out there and talking to people, talking to clients, figuring out their pain points, figuring out, what is it exactly that you need that would get you to the next level, and then figuring out how Emblem could solve that. When you were going through that process, kind of like, what was your initial thought? It sounds like it stayed pretty true over the last 2 years of what you were thinking is like that initial strategy. What did you see as your customers' pain points during that time that kind of helped you evolve in that journey?
Sure. Well, let me just say I experienced it. So the problem was
Yeah.
actually my own, put it like that. So here's how we started out. So one private equity firm reached out to us and said, me personally, it was one of my really good friends. And it was his idea to start the company actually, and was co-founding with us for a little bit. He reached out to me. He's like, man, if you could just read a sim and put it in an Excel sheet so that we can just insert it into our CRM, like that would prove that you could build way more of what we need. I was like, okay, that's fine. What else do you need? And then they started talking about, like, he started talking about his pain points in his day to day. I was like, yeah, you're right. I had the same problems, man. Like, I hated going through data rooms. I really hated having to email a founder to get some financials and read through the sheet to calculate add backs on EBITDA and do customer retention analysis on web sources, and then put those data sets into the Portco's actual data sources. And most of the ERPs were outdated anyway, so you could just remove the ERP layer and keep all the data in one place and actually just streamline the internal fund ops across the fund. And it started with just the SIM to Excel sheet that they could insert into their CRM. And that got us our first customer. Then it evolved into reading all kinds of PDFs, Word documents, and PowerPoints. But then so we're like, okay, let's try this. Let's try bringing this to market. Let's go and reach out to a ton of firms about this and see what they really need. This is early Gen AI, pre-AI coding tools, popularized RAG pipelines. They said, okay, add Excel functionality. I want to be able to compare deals and I want to be able to build reports. And we were like, okay. So a few months later, we come back. We could read Excel sheets, we could build comparisons, and then we could build reports. And we took that to market, but the reports did not actually do anything besides sit in the platform, and they didn't have citations, and they couldn't get the PowerPoint, and the data was really hard to get into our platform. So like the time it took to get a firm on board, it was like it was painful. So we built a OneDrive integration, and we built a PowerPoint output, and we built citations that could read Excel sheets, and then we came out of stuff in like January after making these evolutions and iterations. And the original concept was like, let's nail the PowerPoints. Let's nail the portfolio management. Let's find any data set and give them all the LLM tools to grow, right? Make it model agnostic, cloud agnostic, automate portfolio management, automate a lot of diligence processes, and make sure it's as agnostic as possible. That way you can actually read a fund's thesis, apply it to their workflow, and they don't have to think about actually doing the first step. If I could have done that, I didn't have to spend as much time on my computer screen actually, up until 2 a.m. making a PowerPoint or looking for a really random financial metric in a 6,000 file data room, or like the biggest one I saw was 23,000 files. Excuse me. That's a lot of data you got to read
Wow.
Friday night. I would have been elated. And now we're at the point where like Excels don't look funky. We have graphs, charts, and logos in our reports. They go to PowerPoint. You could upload any style. They go to a Word doc where you could upload any style. Always come with citations. We're model agnostic, cloud agnostic, and have a true operating system that works across teams and funds. So even the CEO of multi-fund strategies can look at every fund and say, oh, these are the ones that are performing well. These are the ones that aren't. This is how we're going to actually unify to get to a net IRR or a DPI or a TVPI and actually make returns for LPs. Because sometimes it is like it's like a high level thing for decision makers at funds that just need access to the data in the first place. And now we're in that position where it's like, we actually take care of what I set out to do in the first place. So now we can actually bring firms to the future, automate a ton of work. And I'm going to say, and this will lead me to my second point, we can automate a ton of work, but it's not going to be autonomous agents right now. The biggest misnomer I'm seeing is the difference between automation and an agentic workflow and an autonomous agent. Most people don't know the difference between the three. So I will simplify it. An automation, point A to point B. If you have a large language model step in between where it does one step within a set point A to point B, that is an AI automation. That is not an agentic workflow. An agentic workflow is where you tell it to get to B, you tell a large language model to get to B. And the large language model has the tools and it has the context to get to point B. And it decides how to get to point B. The LLM is doing the work. An autonomous agent is when the large language model tells itself what to do and reviews the performance on its own and takes care of the entire workflow autonomously over and over and over again and improves over time. There's a massive difference. We're seeing a ton of people market, quote, autonomous agents. But no, it's an agentic workflow with a cron job or a front-end trigger. That's not an autonomous workflow. It may seem autonomous because you don't have to do anything, but that's not an autonomous agent. An autonomous agent automatically reviews everything and it makes improvements and it has the autonomy to do it, not point A to point B, run it again. That's not an autonomous agent. Make sense?
Stringing together a bunch of agentic workflows, but still have a kind of defined start and stop with this human intervention isn't really autonomous agentic. And I guess a follow-up question on that, when you talk about, and you talk to some of your clients, right, and you mentioned RAG, you mentioned citations, I would imagine that there is a huge burden of responsibility and concern about potential accuracy or hallucinations and different things, I guess. Why do you feel, or what have you seen that makes you think, still human in the loop is the way to go to get the best, most effective information to make sure you maintain accuracy, or how have you thought about that with Emblem?
Good question. Let me just say a couple things. One, these models are smarter than they ever have been. And the rate of improvement from here on out is going to be ridiculous. So we will reach a point where autonomous agents exist with fine-tuned models that scale weights to get different outputs to match a fund's thesis in institutional investing. This will be a thing. However, GPT, while it being the closest we have seen from internal testing to AGI, it's close. I'm sure they're going to say it's close. You still need a human in the loop because it will make mistakes. It won't get the context and needs a ton of context. It needs a ton of context. And for us, that's why we build it well, because we understand a firm's context. And a lot of it does come down to prompt engineering. A lot of it does come down to your computer science basics. For example, if you're going to read chicken scratch handwriting, right? You have to have an OCR pipeline so you can actually see, what does this thing say on this screen that isn't normally legible? What if you get a Japanese company, but you only speak English, right? That's where you have to be able to break down what it says in Japanese and then translate it to English. These are small variables that you need something to recognize the characters on a PDF or a Word doc or a PowerPoint. If it's scanned, it's probably a parsable document format, but the point is you need to be able to break down the characters. That's computer science. That's why humans need to oversee what AI does right now, because there are some basic fundamental pattern recognition principles humans have that computers don't yet. We're close. We're closer than we ever have been, but we're not there yet. We can agentically automate work. We'll say that. You can agentically automate work, but we're not at a point with these models where we've reached recursive self-improvement. If you think about the natural evolution about AI, there's really 4 stages, right? There's AI, artificial intelligence. It's a predictive text model that vectorizes data, looks for the roughest average sum on a vector, and then decodes it into plain English, right? That's AI. When AI starts improving itself without a human in the loop, that's called recursive self-improvement, because it is recursively understanding the predictive text to improve itself on the next output. Then we reach artificial generative intelligence, which is where it is smarter than all humans combined. But then there's artificial superintelligence, which is a whole nother layer. That's when we can evolve the consciousness of humanity. That's when we're not worried about basic human principles. We can effectively, AI could be smart enough one day to automate bringing all humans food and wealth. It theoretically could with superintelligence, because it could organize all layers and choose to align with us. AI alignment's another entirely different question Like totally different question. But in the meantime, where we are today in August of 2025, we're getting really good with agentic AI, but we're not fully autonomous yet. And people say who are fully autonomous are not having the model tweak itself. It's not there yet. I mean, if they are, great. Like you're ahead of the curve and you must have scaled some serious weights to fine tune an output. I'm not under the belief yet from internal testing with our own internal agentic workflows that we are at a point of fully autonomous agents. Not yet. We're close. This is the closest we've ever been, but I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I guess along those lines, in similar, like a potential misconception that I've seen out there in like the AI world and financial services is, as these models get better and better and we do move towards super intelligence, that hey, there's going to be, generic solutions that are going to be able to perform better than individual specialized solutions leveraging AI. I guess, what have you seen, right? Because theoretically, a lot of your solutions could be leveraged for different types of funds. But I guess, do you see the pros of kind of really understanding a specific customer, their journeys or workflows, what's important to them? Do you think those types of solutions are going to outperform some of the generic type of autonomous applications, and especially we look at like the next 2 to 3 years, right?
It could still. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen when AGI is a thing. I think we have bigger worries than just like what tools are going to separate themselves. I don't know. I'll give you a theory. I think when we reach the point of autonomous agents doing their thing, there's two ways to think about these agents, right? There's a model calling tools, which have models and their own tools, right? And it's a system of like models and tools. So you have different functions that plug into different things with different models that have different specialties. So with these autonomous agents, I think the models are going to start calling models, and the tools will be the way to sync data from those models, and they're just going to start connecting. And the way I think of like Emblem, for example, is if we're model agnostic and we start implementing autonomous workflows where the models can call themselves, I think models will become commoditized. They're going to figure out which models are the best, and the ones that have specific fine-tuned weights or a different training data set are the ones that will get called in a situation and make more in the long run. If all knowledge is equally as valuable in the AI world, the knowledge that is proven to be the best at something is worth more. Because if all knowledge is worth the same, the one that's worth more is the one with the specific proof. And I can also think of Emblem being the interface to call all those models within autonomous workflows in the future. So we make it really simple. I mean, you can look at our website. Even that's going to get an update this week and next week as we start building things. As soon as some of our internal work is going to be shown to the world, I can see Emblem being the interface to call other models. And if you're agnostically using models to call models to perform functions where they keep improving themselves, then I think Emblem could be the interface for finance. And that's the way I see our moats developing. That, and then maybe one day developing and training a model in-house, but it could not be on these financial institutions' data. It won't be, because I'm not stealing their data to go build something. Like, I'm not. I mean, we can synthetically generate data, but I don't want to steal data. I don't want to do none of that. I don't want to get in trouble.
100%. That's a huge concern, with financial service institutions. I think sometimes almost overly a concern of, well, our people are trading on our data. What's going to happen? I think it's just like any new technology, right? Like Amazon, Google, everyone already has access to all that data. It's just you're used to it from a cloud agreement perspective as opposed to an AI model agreement perspective, but all the same safeguards exist. Like it's really nothing new there as long as you abide by kind of the operating agreement and SLAs you have, right? I guess for bring it back to kind of P and Emblem, obviously there's a lot of hype and a lot of interest around AI. I guess, what major shifts are you seeing in the P industry right now? Is it really all AI right now, or are there some other areas of, changes that are potentially impacting that business or how they operate? Like, what are you seeing from clients there?
We're still in an early adoption phase. When I started the company, we were in a super early adoption phase. Now, some of the biggest funds in the world are starting to implement outside solutions and build internal solutions. Like, for example, I talk about how OKKR and JP Morgan and our white paper are actively internally deploying AI because they have the tools and they have the money and they have the people to go actually build this. And it makes sense. It fully makes sense. I would say, similar to earlier, there is a lot of there are a lot of misconceived notions about finance people trying to learn tech. Because AI makes everything seem accessible, but you still got to understand the basics of computer science and how data pipelines work and how data migrates. For example, basic concept ETL pipelines. Like, this is very complex for somebody who can really break down a DCF because it's just not their specialty. And that's okay. Right now, if you don't have millions upon millions of dollars to go build internal solutions, don't trust a third party. Like, don't. That's why being an early adopter so you can gain efficiency to find alpha in your investments makes perfect sense. Like, this is the year for you. This and next year, I think, are the most legitimate years for private equity firms to pick up solutions that help them in-house build, find alpha. And it really is about the alpha. It's not about the time saved. I mean, that's how you quantify a case study. It's not about the returns generated because the humans generate the returns. It's quite literally just how much alpha can you find if you trust this tool to look for insights. And many firms have this misconceived notion that it will do everything today, and it won't do everything today. It could do upwards of 60 to 65% of it and get something that helps remove a weekend. That's still a ridiculous amount of time. Don't get me wrong, but the misconceived notion is, oh, it does everything. It doesn't do everything yet. It's not, we haven't reached AGI yet. When we do, I mean, there are bigger questions in mind, like much bigger questions, especially about humanity as a species. But the misnomer again is just like, it does everything. If it doesn't do everything, I don't want it. No, there's still layers of implementation that you have to consider today.
So let's talk about alpha. I guess at some of your clients, maybe at some of your early implementations, how have you seen Emblem really drive alpha for them? I know agility and time to market and being kind of a first mover, whether it's identifying potential investment or closing a deal or adopting AI are all super important things on the mind of P funds. I guess, where have you seen some tangible examples you kind of help highlight that Emblem's been able to enable?
Well, for one, every single reference of a data set comes with a footnote citation that highlights exactly where within the source file it came from. When I say uncovering and finding alpha, I mean quite literally there might be data points that you missed that could affect the total valuation of a deal. Like, for example, if you're a lower middle market private equity firm looking to buy a $1.5 million services business on a 4x multiple, but you missed out on $125,000 business expense on profits. Well, why would you give them $500,000 more at a 4x multiple if they spent 125 grand on something that didn't help add value? Instead, you just gained $500,000 of alpha off a data point. You see what I mean? That's like a tangible example. Another tangible example is like, if you're truly diving through a data room and you're looking at, for example, even employment contracts where the data books themselves say that each employee receives this amount of phantom equity in an LLC. And then you actually go through the contracts and you see that they missed out on 2 to 4 performance milestones per employee that affect what the overall carry when you buy the business is. Then you're in a bad, like you're in a worse spot by not doing the diligence on every contract because you're actually giving the founder less money, so they have less incentive on your carry when buying the business. Like, these are just examples of alpha from an X's and O's point of view. Then you can even consider like the brainstorming side of things. These LLMs are smart enough to brainstorm with. They're not smart enough to run a business. A perfect example of this was a month ago. Claude Sonnet 4, Anthropic's model, tried to run a vending machine business. And it decided to build the best possible vending machine and spend a couple grand on things that were just not relevant for the vending machine. It's a perfect example of like over optimizing for the goal without understanding the business. That's why it's great for brainstorming. It's not great to be a CEO yet. It's not a CEO yet.
Yeah, it's a good board to bounce around ideas on, but the executive still has to make the executive decisions at the end of the day, right? I guess Emblem's been on a pretty interesting ride. You talked about product market fit, you talked about kind of the POC, and it feels like you're kind of at an inflection point right now where there's this major unlock that you've been able to prove, and it's kind of just proving that case over and over again, getting that a bit more public. I guess for you in the business, what's working well right now, and kind of what's been a bit more frustrating for you in the operating business side?
Great question. The hardest part of the business is done. We have a product that could definitely solve a problem. Is it proven to the outside world yet? No. But now we've wrinkled out the bugs and it's consistently able to be used. It does what it's supposed to do. We've rigorously tested it. We had to pretty much reinvent the entire thing in February because it didn't have the architecture to handle agentic AI. Now it does. And we internally have been testing a variety of different things that will immediately add even more value than the original vision. I'm not going to fully say these things, but the PE firms that tune in will want to check in if today is not the time, which I know it will be, because the amount of value we can add is about to explode. All I have to do, I guess the only real pain point I have right now is proving it. Literally, I'm at the point, there's like this, I told you, the internal external part of the momentum. This transition to external is just me literally begging people to try it, because once they experience it, our business model makes perfect sense. And so long as you can, I mean, we've done a lot of small things to eliminate like security concerns, which we never had any. Let me make this clear. We never had security.
Proactively.
Yeah. But proactively make it easy for them to say yes. My goal when talking to a PE fund manager who's skeptical and believes it's a hard fact that you can't use AI to help save time or find alpha every day. My goal is to challenge their expectations and to show them what's possible, then prove it. If I can prove it, I can earn my value. If I can't prove it, then I won't. And to be honest, the best thing that you can do is learn, because every loss is a lesson. And if you learn, you earn. So if I pilot with a firm and the firm calls out exactly what they need that we don't have today, guess what? We learn, we build, we come back with what they need. And guess what? They're willing to try again because we listened. And that learn can turn into an earn in time. In order for us to build what the market told us in January, which was the universal search, the portfolio management / tracking, and the fully polished PowerPoints, we had to reinvent the wheel. It took a lot more time than I wanted to, but it's totally worth it. Oh my God. Like our platform's insane now. I'm not gonna lie. It's nuts. But now it's like that internal momentum is like so obvious and right to somebody who sees it that the outside world, when testing it, will see that we're capable of earning. Like, it's funny because I was an investor. In looking at my business right now, it's like, if you actually see what it does, it's like, wow, this company's really ready to hop in the driver's seat and take advantage of what's out there. So it's really interesting. Just, it's weird when your customers are your investors and then your investors are your customers, and you kind of have to play this balance game of chicken and egg. Which side of the business do I want to show? But all I can say is, like, we have what you need. Just try it. That's it. Like, simply enough.
That's great. It feels nice to feel like you've done the hard work that you need to do to get to the place where you need to be. And obviously there's still a ton more ahead of you. And to your point, like the stages of the external game, are just beginning, but that's got to be a good feeling. And yeah, I've seen, even from the interactive demo on the site, the opportunities there across the terminal are pretty tremendous. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I guess to your point on, that's the main thing you're focused on, is proving it. I guess what metrics do you look at as a business owner? What's important to you that shows you that you're driving in the right direction?
I mentioned it earlier. There are 4: total amount of files indexed, total amount of reports ran, total amount of queries made on our platform, and time on platform. We try to make the data transition to our platform very easy. That's why we're cloud agnostic with integrations. That's why we even have an emails function, which you can see on our website. You get an email, you can sync it to a deal, click on the drop downs, and actually make sure these deals are synced up with the right data set. The question then just becomes like, what questions do you have? What are you looking for? Is it there? If it's not there, you want us to go find it? Like, that's how simple it should be. Because it can obviously, as I said earlier, AI can brainstorm and extract really well. It's really good at repetitive systemic functions, because then it can learn from the data set as it continues to increase. For me, the 4 things I am consistently measuring as I am onboarding these firms with pilots. The risk to try Emblem is 0. The likelihood of achievement is very high, and the ideal vacation of a more efficient fund is something that we are going to guarantee or you don't pay. Simple business model. Very simple business model. I'm just looking at those 4 KPIs. And I'm sure that if fund managers tune in today, they're convinced of this, because it's obvious when you look at what we do that it helps you every day. Like, it's obvious. And I don't see why a firm would be mentally restraining from bringing the future to today. I don't see why. So I guess my only limitation is how many firms are willing to try this and how much value can I add within that pilot. And I want to talk to users all the time, every week, whenever they're available, see how they're using it. What can we do better? Can we fix things? Is it what you want? If it's what you want, how can we work together long term? Tell me what you need next. Like, I'm here to build real relationships with investors. This is the only way I can bring investors to the future. And there's a reason why we have customers now. It's the reason why I kept relationships over the years, even though I'm 25. I've kept relationships over the years, and why I will constantly have what I need to help them solve a problem. It's just being candor. So yeah, I guess to simplify the answer to your question, those same 4 metrics as earlier. Now it's just a matter of who's going to try Emblem so they can believe me.
Yeah. Well, and those are interesting and I think good in that they're not just, users on the platform. Those are really meaningful, sticky, usage value based metrics, which I think make a lot of sense. So I know we're getting close to time here. I guess anything you'd like to leave viewers with, and then where can they best learn more about Emblem and what you're up to?
If you want to see what our interface looks like, if you want to read our white paper on where we think AI is going, and if you want to try it, you can just go to emblem.pe. You can book a call with me. Oh, and we're hiring. So if you want to apply to work for me at Emblem, we can't bring firms to the future without people who are candor, communicative, innovative, and customer focused. We're looking to work with excellent people who love to build. We're looking to really align our missions for what we want long term to what we're doing now. And we have an excellent culture. And I want to make sure that anybody interested in working with me can see eye to eye on our values, because we can really win in bringing firms to the future if we see eye to eye as people. Firms, educate yourselves. I bring a lot of context. People who are interested, you know where to find me. And if you're interested in working at Emblem, let me know.
We'll put links to everything below. And Luke, excited about what's in the future for Emblem, and appreciate your time today.
Yes, sir. Oh, one last note. We're going to, in the next couple of weeks, announce a new feature that's coming out. And I'm really excited about it. I will let you know when it's out.
We'll keep everyone updated. New things on the horizon. Always exciting.
Thank you for
Thanks,
your
Luke.
time.